Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Building Resilience, helping teens develop coping skills and emotional intelligence. We are excited to have Dr. Jane here with us today. Dr. Unati Jain is an impactful keynote speaker, TEDx presenter, and author known for inspiring audiences at organizations, schools, colleges, and universities. With a passion for personal development, leadership, and understanding generational differences, Dr. Jane helps organizations foster collaboration across multiple generations, creating environments where people work in harmony and achieve their fullest potential. As an experienced life coach, she works with teens, parents, and adults, guiding them toward personal growth and success. Her insights on behavior and generational dynamics provide invaluable tools for creating positive change both in personal lives and workplaces. Active in Rotary, she drives change through service, empowering young people to become confident, compassionate leaders who make a lasting impact. Her next upcoming book, Everything Begins with You, further explores the themes of self-empowerment and growth, offering readers a roadmap to unlocking their inner potential. Whether delivering TED Talks, authoring books, or conducting keynotes, Dr. Jane is dedicated to helping individuals and organizations embrace transformation. With a passion for bridging generational gaps and fostering understanding, she inspires others to act and lead lives of purpose and impact. We're so excited to have you here today. I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Diana, for a very warm welcome. I appreciate everybody being here. We do have a lot of content to cover, so very, very blessed to speak to each and every one of you. And thank you, FCPS, for the opportunity. This is my second webinar. This is done in a series, so we do have another 2 webinars. And I'm hoping that in the next 1 hour, we can get you a little bit at peace with your teenagers and give you some tools to help you manage this very difficult but very empowering time as a parent. So with that, let's begin. Thank you, everyone. A little bit about me, adding to what Diana has already said. I am a youth behavior change specialist. I work with teens, adults, and youth. My expertise lies in generational behaviors. I have a doctorate in leadership and change with a focus on Gen Zs, typically, and now alphas. I am a mother of a 21-year-old, very, very blessed. So that drives me to create further change. I'm also a TEDx speaker. I'm a researcher. I'm constantly researching new strategies as the generations are changing. I do have a book. I do have a couple of books. One is an academic book, and last year I wrote another book, which is called A Parent-Teen Journey, which you will find on Amazon. If you do a search by my name, you'll be able to find that book. I suggest every parent read that book. It has got a ton of strategies, especially if you're an immigrant parent. I'm also a yoga and meditation instructor. I practice hot yoga every day for the past 20 years. And I use a lot of meditation strategies in my coaching practice with young adults, because especially with our teens whose minds are constantly wandering because of social media and multiple other things, I think it's very important to teach them some stillness in their lives. So that's a little bit about me. With that, our presentation today is going to cover why building resilience for your teen is important. What is resilience? And what does it really mean for teens? And how can you support them in your growth as a parent? I know there were a bunch of questions that Daniel sent me, which covered 90% of what we have. But what I would request each one of you who's listening to this presentation is, as we go towards each slide, if you have a question, please take out a pen and paper, write it down, be very, very targeted in your questions when you put them in the chat and the end, so I can give you a very particular strategy that you can run with immediately to create change with your teens. Very important to understand what they face today, because unless and until we understand the problem, we can't find a solution. So social media, firstly, what has been very impactful with our teenagers or young adults. And why young adults? I think it's been very impactful with each one of us. I mean, I use social media. I use it for different purposes, but if I don't check my usage, it can really get to me. And I'm sure if you're a parent and if you use social media, you know that you can get carried away too. So, what does it do for teens? Teens, it creates isolation because they hide behind a screen and they don't have the mental powers or the developed brain that you and I have. So, they're unable to stop themselves from constantly scrolling, which gives them a reduced attention span. In any case, an attention span in a young adult is supposed to be 7 seconds. It further reduces it with social media. They have increased difficulties with communication and emotional regulation. Why? Because they're constantly looking at a screen. They're looking at other people posting pictures of food, posting pictures of how good their life is. And they hide behind a screen. They forget what it is to communicate in person. They begin to have body image issues for similar reasons. They begin to have self esteem issues for similar reasons. Think about it. When they look at other people having such a great life, they go into the victim mode and they're constantly questioning themselves. They're questioning their identity, who they are, what they want to be. Why is their life not as fun as everybody else's? And of course, increased relational conflict. Because when they see somebody else having such a good time, which they're not, they begin to fall into a jealousy pattern. So, social media has proven to be damaging to young people's mental health. And we will, as we go into the presentation, we're going to figure out as to how we can lower the impact and help them manage this. Academics. College is stressful. I just met a parent saying, can you suggest a coach to me who specifically focuses on college because we don't know what to do? Parents start becoming very, very stressed as they approach the college years. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you remember what it was being in high school? Did you know what you wanted to do? Did you know where you wanted to go? What was your career going to look like? What was your future going to look like? Weren't you constantly wondering what your peers were doing, how they were behaving, what their future was? If you saw a policeman, didn't you want to be a policeman? If you saw a fireman, didn't you want to be a fireman? These are all the things that we go through. And these are exactly the things that our children go through. Perfectionism, burnout, overachieving, focus on GPAs, focus on grades, constantly wondering about grades. Academics is a big, big challenge for a teen. Which, of course, all of these combined leads them into depression, social anxiety, eating disorders. They eat their emotion, body image issues. All of these are very living challenges with our teenagers around us. That's why we have increased number of suicides. It's very sad, but I hear one or the other person reaching out to me in a week telling me about a child committing suicide or harming themselves. Our teens are taking more risk-taking behaviors because they're unable to handle these challenges. Something to keep in mind as we find our coping strategies. Very easy to put our teenager in a box and to say, our teens, our teens are giving us a hard time. I can't manage my teen. I can't handle my teen. They're defiant. They don't listen to me. All of these things are real. It actually happens, and I'm not minimizing that at all. But what I am trying to highlight is the constant challenges behind what they face. So we need to come to a happy medium. Again, we've already discussed college choice at this point feels like a defining choice, not only for your teen, but even for you. I think United States has put us in that place where when a teen reaches a college or time to apply for college applications, that is the most stressful time. I remember my own time. My son is now 21, but at that point in time when he was going to college, it was very hard for me to regulate my own emotions and to figure out and to understand that what is going to happen if he doesn't get into the college that he wants, or he doesn't get into the college that I want. So all of these things are playing out in your mind as well as their mind, the academic competition. I want you to ask yourself a question right now. Very honestly answer this for yourself. How many of us, at some point in time, tell our children, look at that child next door, or look at that friend next door. They're doing so much better than you. How is it that they can do it and you can't? I want you to hold on to that thought. Let's talk about social influence. Who your child surrounds themselves with has a huge impact on who they are. If you're an immigrant parent, you have your own set of values at home. But when your child goes out, they see people with completely different values, different diverse backgrounds. That's what they're seeing. They're completely confused in their own mind. These are all real-time challenges that we need to address, look at, and figure out our coping skills based on these challenges. We will be circulating this presentation later. FCPS will do it. So keep these slides handy whenever you feel like you have fallen out of your center because your teenager is not listening to you. Refer back to these challenges, and it'll help you identify and empathize while finding the right strategies to help you be the parent that you want to be and take your child on the right path. Now let's talk about teen well-being. Today we're going to talk about resilience, coping skills, and emotional intelligence. Everybody's coping skills are different. It depends from person to person. It depends on age. It depends on your background. It depends on where your home is, who your parents are, how they behave. But these are methods used to manage stressful situations. For instance, the coping skills in our house is because I practice yoga. Every time that we face a challenge, we're supposed to take a break, process it, give it a few minutes, and then come back and readdress the situation when both the parties are ready to readdress the situation. So, coping skills, and you need to identify what your coping skill is as a parent, and then use that method to handle stressful situations. So, we're going to be talking about multiple of those. We're going to be talking about emotional intelligence, a very, very important topic. The capacity to be aware, of control, and express one's emotions empathetically and handle relationships in a way where none of the parties are affected or least affected. For that, we need to understand what is emotional intelligence first in detail, and then share that with our teenager, practice it with our teenager to give them the tools to manage their emotions. Why do they matter? Because teenagers with a higher EQ, emotional quotient, tend to be better and more satisfied in interpersonal relationships. And we will talk about the difference between interpersonal and intrapersonal relationships. So these are the three things that we're going to be talking about. Now let's define resilience. I always like to bring in the American Psychological Association when I'm talking about resilience. Because once you understand the academic language, it's easier to break it down into simple language. So let's understand what Academic Psychological Association says, because everything that I say and do is always backed by research. Resilience is the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to external and internal demands. So you see how this is giving you a 360 view of the coping skills, the emotional intelligence that we need to develop all together to package it into resilience. That is what is resilience. It's bouncing back from setbacks. Resilience is the ability to bounce back, adapt, and successfully cope to life challenges, both expected and unexpected, normal or abnormal. Most of us, including adults, we're constantly attached to the outcome and want to know the future. Nobody knows the future. When we live in the future, we attract misery. When we live in the present, we enjoy the moment. Past is depression, future is anxiety. Resilience is the ability to create mechanisms that will help you stay in the moment, make the best of it, and learn from failure to go back to it over and over again. It's a small um, window into what resilience is. Now let's talk about emotional intelligence. It's the ability to manage both your emotions and understand the emotions of people around you. What are the key elements of EI? Self-awareness, emotional regulation or self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. If we package all of these 5 things into one, that raises our emotional quotient and gives us higher emotional intelligence. Why is it essential? Interpersonal and intrapersonal. Interpersonal is your relationship with others, intrapersonal is your relationship with yourself. It helps us regulate ourselves in difficult situations. And it's essential to personal growth and development in all areas of your life because it helps you in your relationships with others, with self. It helps you in your motivation. It helps you in your discipline, your empathy, the way you interact with others, your social skills. That is what gives you the ability to make those social connections or have those people around you who will be able to support you in yourself and your personal growth. Now that we've got a little bit of understanding of resilience in EI, let's move on to how resilient teens navigate setbacks and reduce stress. In teens specifically, they face setbacks or react to setbacks very quickly. Why? Because their brain is not completely developed. They're not as emotionally, spiritually, physically, intellectually developed as you and I. So the way they react to situations is completely different than you and I reacting to those situations. So resilience allows psychological flexibility, physiological flexibility, allows for adaptability in the face of mistakes, as well as maintaining a positive self-image and increasing acceptance. So as you see, I'm trying to give you the academic language because it's research based, and then I'm trying to also give you how it impacts in your daily life. So take what you can, see what resonates with you because everybody understands different way of interaction. How does resilience reduce stress? Think about it. The more resilient you are, the more you accept yourself. Why? Let's say you fail in a particular situation. If you accept who you are, you accept the fact that failure is normal, that I'm going to learn from failure. Failure does not define me, then your resilience levels will go up. You begin to go with the flow because you're living in the moment. You're not attached to the outcome. You're not saying that if I get a grade A, I am an excellent student. If I get a C, I'm a really bad student. What you're saying is, I'm doing my best in the situation. It doesn't matter whether I get an A or a C, but I know that I'm putting in my effort and I'm doing my best. So resilience reduces stress. We already spoke about this in very briefly, but let's just break this down for you a little bit further. Self-awareness. I am feeling agitated. I either go and eat my emotions, drink my emotions, yell my emotions, or I can sit with them, recognize my thoughts that I am feeling angry and agitated, be aware of it, and wait for those emotions to pass until I interact, communicate with somebody. That's emotional intelligence. Self-regulation. My teenager comes home, is in a very bad mood. I have two ways I can react to it. One, I can yell, I can scream, I can demand to be respected, or I can allow them to speak their emotions. When they're calmer, I wait for myself to calm down, and then I sit with them and I set certain boundaries on their reactions if I feel disrespected by laying out very clearly what disrespect I felt. That is self regulation. Again, emotional intelligence. Motivation, the energizing of behavior in pursuit of goal. I like to put this, I know this is the component of motivation. Motivation is a component of EI. But I also like to add discipline over here because to me, motivation comes and goes. One day you will be motivated, the next day you won't. One day you will have the motivation to speak to your adult, to speak to your teenager, or to manage them, or to take their tantrums. But there are some times that you will not feel motivated to do it. But if you're disciplined enough to say, I'm going to react in a particular way and I'm not going to allow the child to get on my skin, then that's high EI. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. Very self explanatory. Social skills, the ability to help people communicate, interact, and build relationships with others. Now, why am I explaining these components to you? And you're probably thinking in your mind that I want all of these components to be in my teen or in my young adult. But the reason I'm breaking it down further for you is you can only have these components in your young adult or your teenager if you have it as a parent. Extremely important. I want you to take a step back as a parent and think about it. Do you practice all of these things in and around your teenager? Because if you do, you're assuring that your child does too. Maybe not today, but as you continue to practice, they will learn from you because I always tell parents, don't worry that a child is watching, is not listening to you. Worry that a child is watching you. Benefits of EI again, greater resilience, more success in interpersonal and intrapersonal relationships, coping with stress, increased happiness, better communication, better time management. How are we doing with time here? 24 minutes. Okay. Now let's talk about how online interactions affect self-esteem and resilience. Social media is wonderful if used correctly. It has been it has been used to increase social connectedness and foster new styles of communication. Gen Zs are very good at it. Now alphas are very good at it. That's how they communicate. However, it's also shown us increase in disorders, eating disorders, depression, anxiety, poor mental health outcomes, bullying, body dysmorphia, and in-group bias. All of these things are all research-based. Now, I'm just giving you the negative part of it. However, we need to remember social media is not going anywhere. It's a challenge. It's a constant challenge that we as parents are going to face. So the answer is not to stay away from it, run from it, but the idea is to manage it. And we will continue to talk about this. How is it that we are going to manage the impact, the usage of social media with our children and use it to increase their self esteem and build that resilience rather than have a negative impact on it? Emotional development, hormones, puberty, physical changes, they're all going on in a teenager. Peer influence, going outside and being exposed to all of those different diverse perspectives. Hearing people say things, their minds are very, very, what's the word that I'm looking for? Their minds are, I'm sorry, I'm not getting the word, but they can be impacted very easily, for lack of the better word that's missing my head right now. They can be, their minds are very easily impacted at this time. So peer influence is a big influence. So I want you to look around and see, who are your children surrounded with? Do you have any boundaries and rules on where they go, who they hang out with? Are you sending them to somebody's house that you don't approve of? Or are you inviting people to your house? These are all the things that you need to keep in mind. And of course, parenting style influences emotional development. And this is a completely different topic. And if you go onto my website, and my website is my name, you will see you have a quiz there where it gives you a different parenting style. So go ahead, take that quiz. It's a completely free quiz, but it'll tell you what your parenting style is and what you could possibly change it to get different outcomes. For instance, parents that are too involved push their children away. Their children begin to lie. Or parents who teach their children to rely on them for support too much, that takes away their independence, and they become very, very reliant on outside factors. Parents that are too hands off, they become neglectful parents. I know everybody's thinking, what is right and what is wrong here? Parenting does not come with a manual, and every child is different, and every parent is different. So, what suits your child may not suit somebody else's child. So, take that quiz, go onto my website, take that quiz. It'll tell you exactly what your parenting style is and how you can possibly adjust it depending on what characteristic your child holds. Now, let's talk about parenting styles. Oh, sorry, practical ways on how you can support your child. The minute you force a child, a teenager, you're making sure that they move away from you. I'm often asked, why is coaching so impactful with teens? Why teens? Everybody. Does anybody in the room want to be told what to do? All right. I don't want to be told what to do. So, what makes you think that the teenagers who think that they know everything and they're more powerful than every parent out there want to be told what to do? So, the reason coaching is so impactful because coaching is all about helping teenagers identify what is it that's stopping them from moving ahead and set goals to move ahead. What happens with a parent is a parent gets so emotionally involved, which is very natural, you're a parent, that we tend to guide their progress. We tend to tell them what to do rather than helping them identify what is it that they want to do. Open communication is an extremely important component during teenage years. If you don't want your child to lie to you, your facial expressions, your body language, what you say to them when they say something in the house. Remember one thing, if your child is allowed to speak their mind in your house, in your home, around you and your spouse and both the parents, they will be able to go out and speak their mind in front of the world because you are their safest place. And it's very sad, but I hear this very often when a teenager comes to me and says, you know what, I can speak in front of the world, but I can't speak in front of my parents. It's very sad. Think about it. So give them that gift of open communication without judgment. Create that space. And every family has a different space to encourage emotional expression. It could be the dining table. It could be while cooking. It could be while creating space when they're doing homework. It could be in the car. It could be anywhere. But we need to remember it's consistent, it's safe, there is no judgment. Don't take everything that your teenager says to heart. They're having fleeting emotions. And what they're essentially saying is allow me to speak my mind without judging me. Very hard for a parent. But what we can do as a parent is raise our own emotional intelligence, raise our own self awareness, raise our own self regulation, create those boundaries, and then allow them to express. You will see that the atmosphere in your home will completely change. Teach problem solving skills. If your teenager comes to you with a problem, we as parents, our immediate reaction is to solve that problem. That's what parents do. We solve problems. We're just parents. We solve problems. Instead, if we were to empower them, if we were to be there as that guiding light when they come to us with a problem and ask them counter questions on how they think they could solve that problem, and then take them with those counter questions to exactly where you want them to go, that will be a much faster, easier way of teaching them how to solve problems on their own rather than someone solving problems for them. When a teenager has a setback, gets a bad grade, let's say, or fails in academics or in a game or in a sport, they're looking for your reaction because you are the one person who matters the most in their lives. And I'm going to challenge you to try this. The one thing that your teenager does not like is the word disappoint. It works better than punishment. If you were to tell your child, I'm disappointed in you, that will really get to them. Don't overuse it though. What you need to do is encourage your teen to face setbacks because the minute you yell at them when they fail in something, you're ensuring that they're stepping into fear and they're never going to attempt to do the same thing again because they're scared of failure. And we don't want our teens to be scared of failure Because the minute we teach them not to fail, we've stopped their learning, we've stopped them from problem solving, and we have not normalized failure. If you don't normalize failure, how are they going to grow? Are you the exact version of what you were when you were 15 years old? No. Are you the version of what you were 2 hours ago, 3 days ago, 1 week ago, 1 month ago? No. We're all constantly evolving and changing. And unless and until we fail, we can't learn. The one thing that I always speak in all of my keynotes, and tomorrow I'm doing a keynote for leadership Fairfax, and this is what I'm saying to all of the 60 teenagers in the room is failure is essential. If you don't fail, you don't learn. If you don't make mistakes, you don't learn. Model that behavior in your own home because that's how they're going to learn. Have those conversations about failure. You failed today in this game. What do you think you could have done better? Or you didn't get that A grade. Why do you think you didn't get that A grade? How do you think you could change that behavior so that you could come closer to an A next time? Did you study 2 hours? Maybe you need to study three. Maybe you need to do it consistently. Maybe you need to put in 30 minutes every day instead of putting 3 hours at a stretch. These are the conversations we need to have to teach them problem solving, to encourage their growth, personal development, learning. One way of supporting your teenagers. My son goes to the gym every single day since he was 15 years of age. Not because he likes it. He enjoys it, of course, a part of it. But there are times when he's not motivated enough to go to the gym. But he goes. Why? Because he's seen me, whether I'm motivated or I'm not motivated, going to that hot yoga room every single day. Modeling behavior is essential. Ask yourself, how do you manage your stress? What do you do for your self-care in your life? What you do is what your child is going to do. We often hear this word self-love thrown around. I want you to ask yourself this question. For self-love, are you drawing your boundaries? Are you learning to say no? Are you talking kindly to yourself? Are you empathetic with other people? Are you creating space for yourself to process your own emotions? Are you practicing gratitude? How are your interpersonal skills? These are all a part of self love because these are the things that make you. And this is what helps you in stress management. Are you staying away from that relationship that constantly impacts your mental well being? If you're not, and you're telling your teenager to stay away from that toxic relationship, that bad friend, that person who does not improve his or her personal growth or self-care, then how are you expecting your teenager to do it? How are you talking about yourself in public on that dining table? How are you and your spouse talking? How is your spouse addressing you? How are you addressing your spouse? These are all a part of resilient behaviors because your child is watching you. Have your stories out in the open. Discuss how you manage setbacks, challenges. And every conversation does not need to change into a lecture. It can just be a lighthearted conversation which resonates with your child. Discuss setbacks that you're facing now. I discuss setbacks with my team, and I have a Gen Z team of 4 people of all teenagers and 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, including my son is 21 years old. I speak about my setbacks and about my emotional challenges every day. What happens is when you're vulnerable with your child, you invite vulnerability from your child. Think about it. If I was to sit with you as a parent and share my vulnerability, my challenges with you. That would encourage you to share your challenges. We need to use that same strategy with our teens to develop resilience. Now let's talk about strengthening emotional intelligence in teens, practicing empathy and social skills. Do you often, in your friendships, before responding, practice empathy and think about what the other person is feeling? Are you curious about your relationships? Are you sharing real life situations where empathy is involved? Are you asking them the right questions about their friends? Are you challenging them enough to develop their social skills? Are you questioning who are they hanging out with? Who are their friends? What values do those friends have? Why are they hanging out with them? What is it that those friends are giving to them? These are all the questions when we ask our children, of course, empathetically, teenagers, it gets them to think. But the one thing that we need to keep in mind is we never criticize teenagers' friends. A big challenge now. So, how is it that we don't criticize? I'm sorry. I think we were here. Okay. So, how is it that we don't criticize them, but at the same time, we question them? It's an art. Start with the positive. We always start talking about whoever they're hanging out with a positive, never get negative, but ask questions which helps them think, and then wait for a few days. Your child will come back to you and say, Mom, Dad, you were right. I noticed this. But inadvertently, what happens is we begin to get emotionally very charged up, and we begin to give our opinion on their friends, and that's where struggle happens. Building self-regulation skills. Patience, self-awareness, self-regulation is going to be your best friend for X amount of years. When you express your emotions with awareness, your child learns to express emotions with awareness without being reactionary. I'm going to repeat that. When you learn to express emotions with awareness, your child learns to express emotions with awareness without being reactionary. Whereas when you're not self regulated in your emotions, your child feeds off your reactions. And that's where clash happens. What are you doing to regulate your emotions? Is a question that you need to ask yourself today and every day. And I think I'm going to bring one more topic up over here is, I don't know if I have in this presentation or not, but I'm going to talk about it nonetheless, is the importance of emotional expression. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, call it because of my upbringing and call it because of my culture. Not a few years ago, this is quite a few years ago, but nonetheless, it happened. And my child was very small at that point in time. I had the habit of when I was upset, I wouldn't express that I was upset, but I would clam up, I would shut down, and I would not express my emotions. Instead, I would go clean the kitchen or start cooking or something like that. What that did was it built resentment and anger inside of me, and it kept the emotions very much inside of me. And then what happened was, let's say it was something to do with my child. I would hold on to that, and then days later, I would come back and make a dig at my child at some conversation. You did this at that point in time. What that did to my relationship with my child was it impacted it very negatively until we talked about it one day. And he said to me, he says, I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know why you're upset. You think I know, but unless and until you clearly tell me what is it that I did wrong in no uncertain words, I'm unable to break down your emotion. That's when I realized what I was doing. Expressing what you feel, how you feel, very, very clearly to a teenager is extremely important because a teenager does not have the power to understand your emotions or anybody else's emotions for that matter. So it has to be broken down very, very clearly. Positive reinforcement and constructive feedback. I'm not going to read off the slides and because it's very text heavy and you'll get the slides, but I'm going to give you some real time examples. When a child gets a grade that is not something that you expected, if we don't have high emotional intelligence or high self-regulation, we have a reaction to it. Your first reaction is what your child holds on to. So let's say they got a grade D or a grade B or a C and you were expecting an A. And when they come back and show you the grade and your immediate reaction to them is, you did not study. I knew you were going to get a grade C in this class. You don't pay enough attention. You don't study enough. All of the negative connotation. What that does is it gives them negative reinforcement. The next time around, in their childlike brain, they say, nothing makes my parents happy. You know what? I'm going to stop trying. It doesn't matter. They're going to yell anyways. Positive reinforcement is extremely essential. Because when you attach yourself to the outcome, your child attaches themselves to the outcome. When your child attaches yourself to the outcome, themselves to the outcome, what it brings is anxiety. When it brings anxiety, it gives them performance anxiety. When it gives them performance anxiety, their effort goes down. They live in fear. When they live in fear, they forget what they have learned. What happens? Grades fall. Failure happens. And that becomes a cycle. Self-regulation, positive reinforcement, and constructive feedback. When they give you a bad grade, first regulate yourself and then come back with constructive feedback so that they're able to do better next time. They know that you're not judging them by their grades. They know that when they come back to you and they tell you they got a grade lower than what your expectation was, they will work twice as hard to give you the grade or give themselves the grade, the ones that you're expecting. And of course, studies have shown that celebration and pride contribute to people wanting to set goals. So when we turn around and say the child next door is doing better than you, we are actually killing their motivation. When we turn around and say that you're a bad student, you don't study, you're always getting low grades, we are killing their motivation and sending them into a deeper hole than they already are in. Encouraging independence and responsibility. Don't hover over your teens. Give them their privacy. It's all right if their rooms are closed for a little bit, just for a little bit. Have a boundary around it for sure. There's no question about it. I'm not saying that give them the freedom to close their rooms all day. No. But if they want 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, it's all right. If you give some, they'll give you some. They develop confidence in themselves. Give them more responsibility. Now, we can turn around and say, yes, Dr. Jane, it's very easy to say give them more responsibility. I told them to clear the dishwasher. They can't even do that. I have to tell them 5 times. Yes, I'm sorry, you too. But we have a boundary around that, and that's a different presentation. But here is a tip I'll give you. If they struggle with doing a chore, set a time, a clear chore, clear days, so their mind is constantly trained. When the clock strikes 5, I need to clear the dishwasher. When the clock strikes 9, I need to put out the trash. Whatever that is, set a time limit to it. Because the more regulated their, I'm going to take that word back, not regulated, the more disciplined their routine is, their chores are, or their tasks are, the easier it is going to be for you as a parent to get them done. You will still have to repeat them initially till it's embedded in their mind, but giving them that responsibility and constantly positively reinforcing that responsibility will get them to do it today, tomorrow, and for the rest of their lives. Again, one thing I'm going to say, yesterday I was coaching a teenager who is 15 years old, and it's a very hard teenager. They've gone through some very rough times. We got them to a stage where uh, she turned around and told me after 20 sessions, she said, Dr. Jane, thank you for coming into my life. I love boundaries. I love my routine. Can you imagine a teenager saying that? But that is true. They love their routine because it gives them safety. It gives them a sense of belonging. It makes them feel, yes, in this madness that I'm going on in my head all the time, I have somewhere where I can feel safe. Somebody has my back. So even though you will get a pushback internally, they're actually enjoying this. I know parenting doesn't come with a manual and it's very hard. Open communication, trust building, trust, very important. Active listening skills for a parent, extremely important. They say that the child gathers the most from a parent between the ages of 1 to 7. Trust is a factor that develops then and beyond 7. Your child is watching you. Your child is continuously sizing you up, just like, that's a wrong choice of words, but that's the actual choice of words, is they're sizing you up. How much can I trust my child? How much can I trust my parent? Are they showing up on time? Are they there for all of my games? When they're watching my games, are they actually looking at me? Are they actually listening to me when I'm having a conversation with them? Are they listening to me? Are they giving me all their attention? Or are they on their phone? Are they only there physically present? Or can I emotionally connect with my parent? There has to be space for all emotions, positive and negative. We need to allow the negative to pass, for positive to stay, and for positive to pass too. So active listening skills, self-awareness, high emotional intelligence, high EQ, these are all your tools. What are your coping skills? Wow. All right. So that was here. Thank you for being here. Now, I am very, very passionate about this, and I strongly believe that everything begins with you. And I have 2 things that I do. One, I have a workshop that's coming up. It's on December 15th. It's a Sunday at 12:30. The barcode on the left, which says the workshop here, you can secure your seat from there, scan the QR code, or you can go to my website and look there. But sign up. Even if you're not there, you will get a recording of it. This is specifically for parents, for men, women, high performing women, moms to be, or anybody else who's a parent, in which you will learn multiple things, because everything in your life, in your parenthood, begins with you. So I would strongly urge everybody to attend this workshop. If you can't attend it and it's vacation time, I understand that. We will be sending out recordings to each and every one of you, and you can you will have access to it for the rest of your life. On your right is group coaching. or on my right or on your right. I'm sorry, but it says it at the bottom. Bottom. I'm also launching a group coaching program, which is very easy on your pocket. In this, you will get a community of women, of parents, where you will get me 4 hours in a month every Sunday for an hour every Sunday, where everybody can come up with their own topics and we talk together, we coach together, and you get a community where you get to ask questions and you'll get 15 minutes with me every single day. Very easy on your pocket. It's not expensive at all, but it'll give you a community of parents, which I think every parent is looking for. So that's me. Everything begins with you. This is what you will get in my group coaching program is how do you put yourself without guilt, as you've seen in the past 1 hour. What you do is what your child does. So are you putting yourself without guilt, and see how that transforms everything around you? Because otherwise your child is going to struggle to say no. They're going to be constantly guilty. So this is all about you. This group coaching program is for every parent out there because everything begins with you. And as Diane said in the beginning, that's my next book that's coming out, my fourth book that's coming out. I'm super excited, and everything that I'm doing is based around that. Questions? That's a little bit about me, my website, my number. You can send me an email. I'm on. I have multiple social media channels. Feel free to follow me on social media. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Participants, if you have questions, you can type them into the Q&A and we will answer them. There is one that has already come in. This parent asks, my teen seems to struggle with self-awareness and self-regulation, areas that you talked about. She often has extreme out of proportion reactions when she's mad, sad, upset, annoyed, etc. Besides ensuring I'm modeling healthy self-regulation, do you have any tips on how I can help her handle her emotions better? Are there ways to practice?
Yes. So the first way you can help her handle emotions is what you're already doing, is actively mentoring the behavior. Two, I always tell teenagers, parents specifically, if you can get your child to meditate, maybe 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening, do that. Three, when after they have expressed their emotion because they're going through it, what I would suggest is have a conversation with them, sit down and share with them how you manage your emotions, how you self regulate yourself. When you give them practical ways, very clear practical strategies on how you regulate your emotions, they'll be able to do that. Four, make sure you put them in a sport, very essential. Sports, teenagers have a lot of energy. We need to expend that energy to get them to emotionally regulate themselves. So figure out what is the best sport that they would enjoy doing, which will help them expend that excessive energy. I hope that helps.
Thank you. We will leave the Q&A open for a few more minutes. If there are other questions, please go ahead and type them into the chat. So the next question that came in asks, I'm struggling to get my teenager to self-regulate his tech time. I'm finding having to constantly confiscate his devices, which then leaves him alone in his room. How do I address the use of devices without being a pain?
Creating boundaries, give them specific time limits. It's going to take a while. For instance, you can have, I don't know what the age of the child is, but if you have, for instance, let's say the child sleeps at 10 o'clock. If you were to have a boundary that after 8 o'clock, there'll be no phone usage, and it needs to be with you, that could be. So establishing boundaries is what they need because they're unable to manage it on their own. So instead of confiscating it completely, give them specific time limits and maintain those time limits.
Well, since I don't see any further questions, we will go ahead and end the webinar. I'd like to thank you again, Dr. Jane, for being here today. And we look forward to your future sessions. And I would ask participants to take a look in the chat. We do have the evaluation available. If you click on the link, we very much appreciate your feedback. So thank you all very much and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Diana. Can I have you on the line once everybody leaves, please, just for a few minutes?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And anybody from FCPS I'd like to get.